Caleb, in the preseason, what would you say were the biggest question marks heading into the year for Tennessee?
I would say it was going to be running back, offensive line depth, and secondary would have been the top three biggest questions facing the team.
Okay, John, what would you add to that list? Because I know you have another one that's pretty pertinent.
Yeah, in preseason, certainly the secondary was the main thing. I also was I wondered about the linebacking core, how good it would be. And certainly I agree with Caleb on the running backs and O-line, running back depth an issue. The other one, I guess, would be quarterback because of the drop-off between from Nico to the backups.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and get to those right now. Cooper is going to set us up, and you're not referring to. You mean Gaston Moore, which we don't have a drop from, but we're working on that.
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
Perfect. Coop, what down?
Coop here. First down.
Let's start with Nico and the quarterback position. First of all, we all three were on the words that we thought Nico would be very good. So that hasn't surprised any of us. But our question would have been, what if Nico goes down? We've now seen Gaston Moore. So if you want to address Nico's play, particularly on Saturday night, John, and then Gaston Moore, what you've seen of him in the backup quarterback position, if they had to go to that route, what do you think?
Well, as far as Nico, I mean, I think at the end of the year, he'll be considered the best pro prospect in the country among quarterbacks. However, in that Oklahoma game, the way that turf was, it was a bit concerning to me. Guys were slipping, and I didn't think Nico had his footing as well as he normally does. When I was watching him run, maybe I was reading more into that than was there, but that's what popped into my head when it was happening. So I wondered about him making cuts and stuff on that turf. As far as Gaston Moore goes, he played against three vastly overmatched opponents, rather. NC State was overrated too. But I like the way he handled the offense. He threw a couple of touchdown passes. He's really better than I thought he was. I'm not saying Tennessee could beat any elite teams with him at quarterback, but the way the defense is playing, other than Alabama and Georgia, with Gaston Moore at quarterback, I still think Tennessee would have a shot at winning those games. And that, to me, is more than I would have expected in preseason.
Okay. Fair enough. Coop, what down?
Cooper Mays here. Second down.
All right. Second down is this. Let's just include the back seven altogether. Linebackers and the secondary. Has that been answered, in your opinion, to the point that Tennessee is a true national championship competitor?
Yeah, I think so, Dave. The linebackers, I really like Keenan Peely. He's been, I don't know, it seems like he covers more ground than I thought he might. Arian Carter is playing well. And then you have players in the secondary that are making plays. So Jermod McCoy has been really good, I think. So they've helped themselves with transfers. I didn't think the secondary needed to be great. It just needed to be an upgrade over what it's had. So coupled with how good the defensive front has been, I think Tennessee's okay in the back seven now.
Okay. Caleb, let's get a third down.
Tennessee center Cooper Mays here. Third down.
All right, so John, we've talked the secondary, the quarterback play. I want to ask you what I brought up, which was something Dave brought up yesterday too, which is running back depth, because we do believe in Dylan Sampson, but nobody else has really emerged. And I don't know if Deshaun Bishop can go through a whole SEC season. But you tell me what you think.
I really am surprised by how well Deshaun Bishop has played. He was kind of a blank slate to me. Really impressed with him against Oklahoma, as I was Dylan Thompson. because those were tough yards they were getting in that game. First 3 games, I mean, they're getting into the secondary behind that offensive line. But I really liked what I saw from Deshaun Bishop. I mean, I think he carried the ball maybe 16 times, something like that. Held up well. You still need more depth there, but the depth is ahead of what I thought it would be because I didn't know. I wasn't sure about the number 2 guy because Cam Seldon has had injury issues. I didn't know how good it would be for backup. I'm not concerned about the backup now. If those guys both stay healthy, Tennessee has no worries at running back.
Well, that's always a huge if in football at any position. Sure. I think you would agree with that. But it's even a bigger if you play as a lineman. And Tennessee has already been banged up on the offensive line. That leads us to
all SEC center Cooper Mays here, 4th down.
All right, John, your thoughts on Tennessee's offensive line depth. Caleb and I discussed it earlier. He's a little bit higher in the backups that he saw. Basically, Larry Johnson's who we're talking about. But your thoughts on who stepped in there, and is the offensive line depth Tennessee's Achilles heel? I'll go ahead and go on record. I believe it is. If something goes wrong there, that could sideline their season.
Yeah, I think it is our big Achilles heel. But one thing that anytime you discuss a weakness now with Tennessee, whatever that area might be, I feel better about it because of the way the defensive front has been so dominant. I think Tennessee can have flaws, shortcomings, whatever you want to call them, and overcome those now because of positions of strength. The O-line, in that second quarter against Oklahoma, when Lance Hurd didn't play, offensive left tackle, and then John Campbell went out with an injury, right tackle. You saw what Josh Heupel did. He just all of a sudden, he changed his strategy. He said, we've got to be conservative here. We can't put Nico harm's way. We can stop Oklahoma. We just don't want to hand the Sooners anything. And so he became very conservative. I think part of that was because he didn't think Tennessee's offensive tackles could handle that pass rush. Now, maybe they'll get better as the season goes along. However, I still think that's an issue of concern. You look at compared to Tennessee's defensive front, where they play 12 guys and they just keep rotating players in there. Those guys are always fresh. I don't see any drop off. I mean, they were bringing in guys. I was having to check the press guide and say, now, who is this? Beyond the 2 deep. So but it's entirely different on the offensive line. And if you look at Oklahoma's offensive line, and that, talk about an Achilles heel. I mean, that Oklahoma is in big trouble there because of injuries. Could Tennessee withstand the kind of injuries Oklahoma suffered in the offensive line? It would be tough. I mean, it would be tough for anybody. So that, to me, is a concern. And maybe the Vols can develop depth and feel better about that later in the year.
So, Caleb, I want you to jump in here. But I wanted to mention something you said. You said you had to check the roster. So Larry Johnson won your Bobby Graham Award because that is the only, and it's a Memphis guy, right, Caleb? So you'll
no, he's not a Memphis guy. He just beat Memphis made the catch against Memphis.
Oh, sorry. Well, yeah, he made the catch against Memphis, and that's the only guy when I was covering Tennessee full time that I really honestly had to check the roster to know who that was. I did not know who he was when he caught that ball against Memphis. So, John, I don't know if you remember that, but I think we're sitting there.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Everybody said, and these are people that are paid decent money, not really good money because they're journalists, but they're paid decent money to know everybody on the roster. And we all simultaneously said, who's that? All right, Caleb.
Okay, John, I wanted to play off this a little bit because I think that I'm with you with how Heupel got conservative. And I just wanted you, before we get to our next topic, to quickly address the legions of fans that are upset with Josh Heupel getting conservative, because I thought it was brilliant, particularly when Oklahoma's offense isn't moving the ball and you don't want to risk a strip sack and you could get a 3-score lead.
Yeah. Yeah, that was I was surprised by that. I didn't really think about it. I'm writing on deadline. I'm thinking, I wonder what the fans will think. However, my wife is watching the game with me, and she overreacts to everything. If Tennessee goes 3-and-out on one series, she says, that's it. We're doomed. We'll lose. It's over. Why am I even investing emotion in this team? That's all it takes. So she became very irate over how conservative Tennessee was being. And my emails followed that line of thinking. I thought it was maybe Josh Heupel's best coaching job on game day, because that goes completely against what he believes in. He believes in piling up the points, piling up the yards, and a relentless up-tempo, high-scoring approach. And we've seen it in the past. We saw it in 2022. And kind of with the mindset that Tennessee is just going to outscore you. You might give up something, but Tennessee can outscore you. And yet Heupel resisted that temptation. It had to be hard after Nico hit a couple of those deep slants, hit the receivers in stride, one for a touchdown to Dante Thornton, the other to Brew McCoy. Big gains, looked really good doing it. Man, he flipped a switch. Josh Heupel did and said, if we want to win this game, we got to be conservative, slow down the tempo, and took care of the ball and protected Nico. That's another factor in that. I think it's really important with coaches, we call them offensive gurus, to see how they evolve as a coach. They're not the offensive coordinator anymore. They're not the star play caller. They're not just that. They're also the head coach. They got to manage the whole thing and think big picture. And you're right, Caleb. I thought he did a terrific job with that. I think it kind of speaks to how the fans have become spoiled on offense. Is if they think Tennessee can score 50 points against anybody. Well, it couldn't against Oklahoma. There was no way that was happening. It's not against Georgia. It did it once against Alabama. But there are going to be games when you go for a championship, you got to win games like that.
Yeah, all Tennessee's offense could have done differently was lose the game.